And we were focused on scaling out the Interledger network, which for anybody who doesn't know, it was this protocol that came out of Ripple that focused on making transactions possible across blockchains. And so we scaled this up. It was really exciting. We processed over like 10 billion transactions. And we took this thing to production and we showed like, hey, companies are using this and stuff like this is actually like being used at scale right now. And so Ripple is expanding its payment suite at this time. And so given that the protocol came out of Ripple, they wanted to integrate it to the rest of their product offerings at that point. So they ended up acquiring my first company. It was called Strata Labs, but we really were we were the team that basically ran this entire network. I got to work with David Schwartz and we co-authored this protocol originally called PayID. The whole idea was like, it's too hard to, yeah, this thing. So yeah, like the whole idea was like, make it simpler to like pay people. And like, they shouldn't have to think of random numbers and characters. It should just be like some simple email like format. And it basically was the email format, except like a dollar sign instead of an at sign. So that's kind of where the first few years of my career started, and really grateful to have had all the opportunities to work with those people. I'm still pretty close with the Ripple team today. I just hit up Monica, the president, the other day, and I was like, hey, there's a lot of opportunity with the stablecoin that you all are launching. Can you connect me with the team lead? And so I'm going to be chatting with them in a couple of weeks. But yeah, that's kind of a TLDR on my background. Yeah, it's been like 7 years at this point that I've been involved with the Ripple ecosystem.
So you do have this new network, the Omni Network, and
Mhm.
yeah, and the fact that you believe, and I'd like to know how you're going to do it, that Omni has maybe a possible role in it in the expansion of RLUSD beyond the XRP ledger, using it across different blockchains. Just give us an idea of what Omni is all about, and then how
Mhm.
that might facilitate that actual expansion.
Yep. Yeah, sure thing. So I think we've seen a huge maturation in what you can do on chain. And this to me is really exciting because I got involved in 2017 when it was all just like ICOs and token launches and like, I don't know, just kind of like random, like very speculative based activities, right? But we're now at a point where you can do like a whole array of different like useful financial activities. So you can buy treasury bills on chain and you'll just earn that interest on chain. You can take out loans. This whole like DeFi sector has really taken off and I think shown people like, oh, okay, like this isn't just about like speculation and gambling. Like there is real financial utility here. The issue with this, though, and kind of where we're at in the industry at large, is not only do we have a lot of blockchains in general, it's that some blockchains even have blockchains on top of them at this point. So, like the Ethereum ecosystem is scaling not by making the blockchain itself faster and higher throughput. It's yeah, there's layer twos on top of it. So now, even if you only ever use Ethereum, you still have to think about this problem. And honestly, it's really interesting to see because this was the original thesis with Interledger, and like why I got so involved with it. It's like, cool, there's going to be a ton of innovation and experimentation. And like at minimum, there's going to be at least a few different chains here. And so we primarily worked across Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP when we were building Interledger. But it's almost as if that same thesis is even more true today. And so what does Omni do with all this? Omni is specifically focused on just like abstracting this away from end users. And in many ways, you can think about it. For anybody who uses Robinhood or if they're not American, like I feel like Robinhood's primarily in America. But like most people probably have like a stockbroker app where, they want to buy Apple stock, they want to buy Nvidia, and they just press a button. What happens behind the scenes is that application that you're just pressing that button on, you don't have to think about like which exchange is this happening on? Am I like placing a bid at this? Like you just know they're going to get you the best rate that they can. And that happens because they effectively just hand that order off to a sophisticated party, like some really smart hedge fund who's like specializes and thinks about this all day and getting you the best rate. We don't have that in crypto today. And that's why it's so difficult to use all these different financial utilities. And so that's really what we're creating with Omni. It's like the single place that you as a user can just say like, you can click a button. You can just say like, I want to do this. And then these people like Citadel, Wintermute, these like various hedge funds come and compete to give you the best outcome as a user. And it can touch various blockchains. It could, it could involve Solana, it could involve XRP, it could involve multiple L2s in the Ethereum ecosystem. But the whole point here is that like you as a user, you don't have to think about this. And we kind of set up this auction marketplace so that these more sophisticated actors have to fight to give you the best outcome. That's high level what Omni is. One really cool thing that you can do with Omni is uh, we could take any coin, but like let's talk about RLUSD here. We could take RLUSD and expand it across all these multiple blockchains. And so all the retail audience that is there, these like active users of these blockchains, it would almost be as if like this asset originated on XRP Ledger and would continue to be powered by XRP. But like through Omni, it could be distributed to all these like other audiences that are out there, all these like users of these on-chain utilities today. And it would be really interesting to see kind of like if we can, there's the retail side of it where like people can like hold this thing and use it for payments. But there's also a really cool angle that I'm interested in, and it's the DeFi side. It's like, can we get this integrated into lending protocols? Can we use this as margin for trading derivatives? I think there's this like whole on-chain economy that Ripple USD could be integrated into. And I think that will just help like not only with stability, but just expanding the utility at large and then expanding the distribution of like various people holding this asset. Omni does not need the permission of another chain to integrate it. So not that it's like adversarial at all, but it's not like I need to go talk to Flare in order to integrate Flare. Like Omni could just do that without even talking to the team. And so that's one thing that just like removing like not like removing the human component, just like letting these machines work together. Yeah, that was always a big design thesis. Like, cool, it needs to have the ability to do that.
That's good. I like to hear that a lot because that at the end of the day puts the user first. That's really got the
Mhm.
user in mind. And that's
100%.
and that's what
And I
we're
think a lot of companies don't do that in crypto. And honestly, that alone, I think is like a pretty big competitive advantage. I think our team is culturally just like, especially for the crypto industry, like hyper user focused. I think a lot of these companies are like, "Ooh, it's cool tech, right?" And it's just like, sure, but like, what is it gonna be used for? Um, and look, I don't want to like throw shade. Like, I've made many mistakes throughout my career. Like I have learned a lot over the years, and I've made this mistake myself. But I think by making those mistakes, I've learned a lot. And like culturally, as we've been scaling out the team here, everybody's very aligned. Like, cool, we're not just making some like fancy research project. Like this chain, like we are building this to solve a problem, and it's because the world has the opportunity where just anybody across the world can like use a blockchain to work with one another economically. And like the problem is it's too complex. Like we're kind of past the point of like scaling being the problem. We've effectively solved that. And so where we're at now is it's just like people have no idea how to use this stuff because you have to like connect all these different chains. And like if I want to pay you, I'm like, wait, what chain are you on? Like, how do I move my money? Like it's just like way too complex. So yeah, we're quite like laser focused on that. And I think having that focus really helps out with creating synergies with other companies and networks out there because it's like this is what we do. We're not focused on asset issuance or payments. Like this is what we do. So anybody that is focused on asset issuance or payments, like cool, there's a ton of like opportunity for us to work together there.
nice.
The Ripple community knows better than anybody, like how difficult it has been to be a crypto company in the US. And I was actually working at Ripple when the lawsuit originally dropped. And so this was just like years. I honestly think you can make a pretty fair argument that this lawsuit caused XRP to miss the last bull run. And it's just like, yeah, well, there was just this major FUD hanging over it for like, literally 3 years of just, oh, well, I don't know, it's getting attacked by the government. Like, and then it comes out and it's like XRP is not a security. Just like, oh my God, after years, I think Ripple spent like $100 million defending this.
Little over, I believe it now is coming up to, and
Yeah.
and they still have a little bit more money to spend, it looks like.
It's almost as if like things balance out over time. Kind of the way that I see things happening moving forward is, uh, ironically enough, I think builders in America are very well positioned. So like Ripple is a US based company. When I was there, like even before the lawsuit, I believe Brad was like, we have considered like re kind of basing the company elsewhere. My understanding is that they have not done that, but I do think being such a big American crypto company the administration wants to see American crypto companies thrive, and it's definitely going to be looking at the biggest ones. So like Coinbase, Ripple, I think are the like obvious two. Like, cool, like these two companies are doing extremely well. How do we make sure that they continue to do very well? And I think the like incoming administration like understands, okay, this is some internet level like jump here. And so like how do we make sure that this benefits the nation strategically and not like hurts the US? And so I don't know, I think it might I think Ripple might have paid dues for multiple years here. But I do think over the next 4 years it might almost balance out and they might see a lot of like tailwinds like pushing their growth forward.
Yeah, well, it's been it's been challenging being bullied for the last 7 years, even as a
Yeah.
content creator, and not just a holder, but someone who has really seen the value and stuck with it. And yeah, it's been rough. I mean, it was rough in the beginning because of the Bitcoin maxis. I know that it dropped the lawsuit in
Mhm.
2020, so we didn't get bullied for that particular reason until the SEC stepped in. But if you really look back at the history, we had a lot of bullying from the Bitcoin
Yeah.
community, and but I
Yeah.
think that too has now started to change, which is good. And I want to maybe it would be interesting to get your take on this. I want to give a shout out actually um, probably to Chris Larsen because he is so tied to the city. You know,
Mhm.
he's been a San Francisco guy for a very long time, and he's supported the city. And I think because of his love for the city, um, we can thank him for maybe staying a little adamant to keep the headquarters in San Francisco,
Mhm. Yeah.
which was probably even a difficult decision for him because of the uncertainty. But you're right, because of that kind of stick to itness that he had, could turn out to be an absolute wow, just amazing,
Yeah.
amazing sacrifice made in the last few years to now coming out on the other side. That could be, yeah, we're hearing some really interesting things about even positions of of assets that are American made having a tax-free exemption of some sort. I mean, and then
I've
there's
seen some like rumors like that.
chatter
Yeah.
about that.
I mean, if that happens, like, let's go. That's that's fantastic. But I do think, I mean, uh, just speaking super transparently, Chris is on another level. Honestly, super grateful. It's like he's also an investor in Omni, and honestly, he's been kind of a mentor to me throughout the years. Like this past bull or past bear market, there was a point where I emailed him and I was like, Chris, I know you are a busy guy. I know I'm just like some dude. Like he like, and he's quite wealthy. So like it's not like he only threw in $10 into Omni. Like he has an investment. But I was like, dude, honestly, man, it's hard right now. Like but like you of all people that I know, you have built through like what, like three or four crypto bear markets at this point. And so like do you have 15, 30 to hop on a call and just give me some advice? And honestly super grateful for him like taking the time. Um, yeah, I really appreciate the relationship that I have with him. But it was super funny to me because I hop on this call and I'm like, Chris, I'm going to make this company work. Right now, things don't look great. Like, I'll be super real with you, but like, I know I'm going to make things work, but I need to like get through this period. You've taken multiple laps in this, and I built through the previous bear market. But like, any advice? And it was super funny to me because he told me nothing about business. His advice was, you need to get in incredible shape. You need to start boxing. You need to get beat up every day. And you need to start reading stories and like books about people who just like have had it way more rough. Literally, it was nothing about business. And he was right. Honestly, I got in really good shape. I'm honestly like the part of my health right now is downstream of that advice where even if work, even if I'm consistently doing 12-hour days, I'm like, no, I need to work out because I know that my health will just decay and like that'll impact my personal morale and my team's morale. So it was kind of crazy to hear like, wow, this is probably the most successful guy that I know. And his advice here was take care of your body, like take care of your body and like downstream of that, you will feel good, you will execute better, and like your team will see that you are like physically healthy, mentally healthy, and like everybody will get on the same train. So
Wow.
yeah, he's kind of on another level. A ton of respect for Chris.
So what do you do to stay in shape then? Are you going to the gym? What's your in shape
Mhm.
technique?
Yeah. Yeah, I work out every day. A lot of weights at this point and a lot of cardio. So like I've run a marathon before. This was actually when I lived in San Francisco. But yeah, and I like to work out. Honestly, like working out helps keep me sane because there's so much work is just nonstop. We keep like a leaner team for the scale that Omni is at, and it's really exciting because it helps us bring in talent that is like hungry, ambitious, and really talented. But everybody on this team handles a lot, and so working out is just like a great kind of like, okay, I can take 1 hour here and just like really push myself, but it doesn't have to be like mentally grueling. It can be like physically grueling, and in a weird enough like way that like helps bring me peace.
And what books did you read, or what stories of other people's challenges do you
Mhm.
remember reading
Let
that?
me look this up real
Yeah.
quick. It was this specific book that basically it's this insane story of these people that were doing an expedition in uh to Antarctica and their boat like sank and they survived. And so it's this nuts story of these people that li literally were like in Antarctica with no boat and just had to figure out a way to survive. What they ended up doing was they would get on these massive chunks of ice that had broken off and they like rode them to civilization and just like terrible, like really insanely difficult things happened along this. But you learn it's just like, wow, like anything that I am dealing with right now is so pathetic compared to this. Like, like these people were like hoping that the wind blew this ice chunk a certain way or else they were going to die and they were getting like attacked by these like random animals and stuff. And so he was totally right. And just like you read this type of thing and you're like, wow, I mean,
You
work's hard right now, but like I'm gonna survive, you know? And so it does help put things into perspective. I
it
think it's like Shackler's.
reframes
No,
it, puts it in perspective. But what you're talking about is a story that took place when, and it's real. I mean, it's a nonfiction story.
yeah. So it's Ernest Shackleton.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What is this book?
I'm curious,
Um, but
what
it's a real story. Yeah.
like did it happen during an exhibition time early on in the turn of the century, or when did it
Yeah,
happen?
yeah. It's quite old. This book was created from like a journal that was kept throughout the journey. But it's like the type of thing where or the type of time. I can't remember if it's like 1800s. I think it might be like later 1800s, but definitely an era where like we're going on an expedition to Antarctica is kind of like
See you next year.
crazy. Yeah, yeah, literally like cool. That's like a year for sure. Um, but yeah, Shackleton is the guy. It's called Endurance.
Okay.
That's the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage. And it
Wow.
is an incredible voyage for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that was really interesting advice, and I think he's right. And I do see a lot of people in this space because we do sit in front of a screen a little too much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I do see I'm noticing a lot of people in the space um across the whole entire crypto space are really tuning into keeping their bodies in shape. So
Yeah.
I know that it works. Yeah.
I do kind of feel like this is a trend right now.
Mm.
Like people are just thinking about health more, which I don't know is awesome to see. Like
Maybe it's
I
Not David Sachs. Who is it that uh
oh,
R
Kennedy,
RFK?
RFK.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he's had
I
influence on
think
this.
he's gonna have well, we just have that's been kind of a missing input
Mhm.
in the government in the past. And although
Mhm.
Michelle Obama tried to do it with the school lunches, remember? I'm
Yeah,
not a political channel, and nor am I a political expert, but from just really simple terms, I remember her efforts on trying to change the school lunches. And
yeah, I do recall that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there have been maybe some efforts, but I think it's going to be a bigger effort than ever before. So it'll be interesting to see. Although I had to laugh when I saw them all eating McDonald's on on the
Yeah.
plane.
That was quite funny.
That was funny. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
And I don't know if it like if this is me reading into things too deeply or if it is true, but I don't know. For me personally, I do feel a sentiment that like technology is advancing at a rate now that is just wild, you know? Like a few years ago, I would have never imagined we would have had ChatGPT where it's at now. And I also honestly would not have it all guessed that crypto would be where it's at, you know? Like um the type of network, Omni, for example, was not possible when I built my first company. Like the technology is so much fundamentally better now. And it's not only that it's getting better in like one form, kind of like I was talking about how there's like synergies between Ripple and Omni in these ways that I see. It's that the technology is getting better in these different ways. And it's not only that we're dealing with the outputs of, you know, these individual technologies getting better, they synergize and like there's new opportunities created just downstream of these like improved technologies in isolation working together. And I think we're seeing that with crypto and AI today now. I've like tried to explain to my friends, I'm like, there's AIs on blockchains that are rich. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no, actually. And they tweet at people. It's it's kind of crazy.
You're talking about the AI agents, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's wild. And I am starting to tune in to more of that as well because it's wild. It's like I did not have that, yeah, on my radar at all a few years
We
ago.
should create like an XRP AI agent and get Ripple to give it like, I don't know, 50 grand, see what it does.
Oh, that would be so fun. I think we're
Yeah.
going to see a lot of agents running around. Well, the predictions are there's going to be more agents on blockchains than actual human users. So, and I think
Mhm.
we're not far away from that being the reality. So it's wild. It's really
It
wild.
has challenged my like thinking on what you know, this whole like general artificial intelligence. I feel like we've talked about this for decades. I feel like just in the past 6 months, my thinking on this has been nuanced that it's not that there's going to be one super AI, it's that there is going to be a swarm of very intelligent AIs all working together in the output of that, almost like, you know, human society. It's not like there's one mega smart human, but
The collective
society,
brain.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's kind of directionally where it's heading at this point, which is super cool because I never thought about it that way, but it feels quite clear to me at this point, like, oh, this is already happening. This is not some like hypothetical that's out there.
It's it takes pause to think it through when it really hits you on how impactful it's going to be. It's
Mhm. But
yeah.
yeah, sorry, I realized I just went on a crazy tangent. All that to come back to, I think it makes people want to be healthy because they're excited about
Oh,
where things are going and they want to like live longer and experience more of it. Yeah, that's
I,
where I was going with that.
but I think you're right. I think and also too, I think that we all got unhealthy during COVID.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
uh, we missed the sunshine, we missed the socialization, we missed being out in public. We sat more in front of a screen, we ate more,
Hmm.
we didn't exercise. Yeah. So I think it's also a kind of a pendulum swinging from 2 years of pretty much everybody around the world getting very unhealthy. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
The way that Omni is powered is by the Omni token. And so, you know, most of these blockchains, you like pay for transactions in that token. Omni has a pretty unique tokenomic model here because it is a chain that you can do transactions on. But like I said before, it's also a chain that can see transactions from other chains. And so it kind of has this second like fee generation model where anytime economic activity is happening from one chain to another, it takes fees there. The third area though, so there's like multiple layers. This like again, we were like very intentional about this type of thing. And it kind of comes from like experiences building my first company. You learn a lot getting a first lap in. And so the third layer here that we're building right now, and I'm really excited about. So we just launched the mainnet a few days ago, December 17th. Super excited about that. Honestly, honestly, the biggest win of my career. It was seamless. Like, all the engineers were watching like these dashboards, like, is it like stable? Like, and it was, there were no fires that happened that day. And so huge win, very excited about that. But where I'm really excited about is where we're going with this. So basically we're building a layer on top of this. We were kind of talking about agents. It's not necessarily that like they must be agents, but like they could be agents and they could be hedge funds, like I was talking about before. And this like auction marketplace type thing where a user can just come and say, like, I want to do this thing. And then people can come and bid for that. The third like fee generation opportunity that Omni has is it not only like pays or it not only accumulates fees from gas on its own chain and gas across other chains, it can accumulate fees from routing value across these different networks. And this is something that is like very, very unique. And I'm actually not aware of any chain that has had this before, but this is the main thing in development right now. So in Q1 and Q2, we're going to be like pushing on the first versions of this. And already, honestly, we're the first team that we're building this with has $2 billion in their protocol. And so it's nice having been in the industry for such a long time. It's just like, cool, that team, I know them. Like, I'm just going to hit them up right now and see if we can work on this together. So that's kind of like the things upcoming. And just like if anybody's curious about the tokenomic model, that's how Omni accumulates fees. Yeah, I mean, in regards to the builders that we're interested in working with moving forward, one that I love in the XRP community is Vitsa with his Sum app. Like, I've known this guy for so many years at this point, and he's just a good dude. Like, honestly, I remember even back in like 2018, 2019, just like, wow, he's a really kind, like, just well-intentioned guy. I chat with him like every now and then and stuff, but I do think there's a really cool opportunity. Um, Actually, this communicates what Omni is even better. I think there's a really cool opportunity there to potentially work together because he runs a wallet, right? So it's just like this nice, simple interface so that like people can like do the thing that they want to do. But it is like constrained to the number of chains that are directly integrated into that wallet. And like, if let's imagine that somebody builds a lending protocol with like RLUSD, he would kind of have to like manually integrate that. What Omni provides is just this like general abstracted interface so that like he could take user requests, put them on Omni, and it's like, cool, it just goes and hits this lending protocol and like borrows some of Ripple stablecoin for the user. And he doesn't need to go through all the work of like integrating all these different protocols. I chat with him occasionally. I'm gonna hit him up again. I think I chatted with him like 2 weeks ago, but yeah, I'm gonna see like what surface area there is to work together because he's just a good dude. Honestly, he's just really well intentioned and he's super smart. Like I like talking to him, I was just like, wow, dude, like you really know what you're doing. If I'm recalling correctly, he was the originator of the like hooks idea for like programmability on the
He had,
XRP ledger.
yeah, he had Richard Holland also helping
Yeah.
him. And maybe you worked with Richard at some point in the
I don't
past.
remember Richard,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just
And
randomly
Dennis,
remembered Beats'
you know Dennis,
Dennis, maybe Dennis who?
starts with an A. Angel. I can see it, but yeah, Dennis
Yeah,
Angel. I think,
interesting. No, I don't know.
oh, okay. So I think, and I think the reason that I know a couple of those names is because they appear in a brand new documentary that was just
Oh
released
yeah,
yesterday.
wow, that's cool. What's the
And
name of it?
you can watch it on
Yeah.
X. It was done by Zerpinator, who is Mason Lighthouse. He is also a gentleman who's a videographer. He has an
Mhm.
amazing storytelling talent through video, and he does a lot of video work for lots of people across lots of different sectors. And
Mhm.
he finished his documentary series on Zahao, and
Oh yeah.
it just was published for the public viewing yesterday, and it's great. So if you watch that, you see some of the backside players that were
Mm.
part of developing hooks, which actually the development started years ago. So
Yeah.
And
many years ago.
yeah, and I think that some of that inspiration or some of the original thought process came from Codius. Did you ever work on Codius?
Yeah.
I'm sure you
So
did because you were working
mhm.
so close with Stefan, probably Evan too. So I don't doubt.
Yeah, Evan is another guy who I'm super grateful for. I mean, Evan and Stefan, like both were big mentors in my first company. I mean, we literally worked out of Stefan's office. And Evan is part of the reason why I was able to raise money for my first company.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they're
but
another
all
group of
that
good guys in the space.
they are, yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, Codius is like OG smart contract idea, and like it was. Honestly, it's still very, very cool to like think about this computing paradigm, but Interledger was created so that Codius could be a thing. So that's kind of like the order of events there.
And I think that there is some some inspiration coming from that evolved into hooks. So you'll have to
Mhm.
watch the documentary. It's
Yeah, for
quite
sure.
good. The work that Dennis, that's his real name, does is I'm inspired by it because as a content creator, I taught myself how to edit, and I'm still learning. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm still learning, and I love when I discover a new technique and I see his mastery at putting a story together visually, and I'm just impressed. So
Yeah.
you have to look at the artistic side of the documentary as well as the content itself. It's like a really great blend of both. So
Mhm.
enjoy it. But how did we get there? I kind of forgot how we got. I
Just
guess it was the
XRP lore, you
oh
know, it
yeah,
goes deep.
and you were talking about how you wanted to reach out to Wisa. No doubt. Well, you know, if it works for a wallet solution, in my opinion, I'm kind of seeing, we've got a couple of, I don't like to call them wars because that means there's winners and losers. But
Mhm.
sometimes a war is more like a competition, and it
Mhm.
starts to improve the product, and it improves
Yeah.
the user experience because everybody's trying to compete to having a better user experience. I see kind of two things happening in the space right now, and it's curious to get your feedback, but I see it happening, of course, with stablecoins. There's just a
Mhm.
huge competition now to carve up the stablecoin market. And the
For
other
sure.
thing that I'm seeing is that there's a huge competition now with wallets.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
kind of the gateway. The wallet is really, really an important gateway into this
Mhm.
space. And so if it works for Witsa, then maybe the people who are building wallets out there, maybe you're the kind of person they should talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree on both points there. These are both very interesting areas and they're both like heated right now. And I think that the competition there is fantastic. Like people who are good at running companies, it's good to just like have them come in and compete in an industry because it makes the whole industry better. But this is actually, I think, a really good way to communicate the strategy that we're taking with Omni. And yeah, honestly, this is like pretty strongly influenced by my time at Ripple, where there are certain parts of crypto that I resonate with on an ideological level very deeply. Like I really care about giving people like access to just like neutral economic infrastructure. And I think Ripple faced a lot of like heat from the like Bitcoin community early on because they were like, cool, let's work with banks though. Let's get them to like use this technology. And so the strategy actually with Omni here is make effectively this like portal to the on-chain economy where wallets can post what they want to do, but like we don't want to stop or we don't want to like stop once we get some wallets on there. Really, what we want to do here is take this to fintechs, take this to banks directly. So the ideal version of the world that I see is just that like the existing financial institutions that we have where people are holding their money today, they start to offer up services that are just available in the on-chain economy to their users. Like it'll get to a point where like many people across the world today cannot buy treasury bills, for example. And this is something that's not like in the future, like this is today, you can buy treasury bills on chain. And so what we're really excited about is just like, this is obviously a multi-year vision here, but using Omni to make it so that like, I don't know, let's imagine like Indonesia, like some Indonesian bank, they just hook into this API and they can post a user's request to buy a treasury bill on chain. And the user doesn't have to think about it being a blockchain. They don't care. Like they just care about like having a way to preserve their wealth, right? Like they don't really care how it happens. And so that's really where we're going with things. It's like it's almost as if we're like crawling out of the technical weeds over the years. It's like, hey, like step one, let's make it so that people don't have to think about chains. Step two, let's get a bunch of these wallets on board and stuff so they can all access the entire on-chain economy. And then three and four is like, let's get fintechs and banks directly so that people don't even have to move their money. It's almost as if by default, they can be like onboarded into the on-chain economy. And this definitely was influenced by my time at Ripple. Like, let's just be pragmatic. Let's like actually take the utility of this technology and bring it to people across the world because we're only going to get so many people that take the time and effort to onboard for like ideological reasons. And if we really want to like make an impact for everybody across the world, we have to go to them and make it happen. Honestly, I owe deep gratitude to key Ripple people throughout my career. I would not be where I'm at and like have the opportunities that I have if people weren't willing to mentor me when I was dumber, you know, when I was just like a kid graduating from Harvard, just like, cool, I might understand computers well, but like I don't understand business well. And so yeah, honestly, like I'm really the support I've had throughout my career has been fundamental in just the opportunities and luck in general that I've been able to experience. And so I mean that like very sincerely, like yeah, just deeply appreciative for those people.
Good things come to good people often. So I think you must be one of the good guys.
Yeah.
The one of the stupid questions that I had, which I had a lot of stupid questions for you, but the one I'm just going to pull one that I still think that
And
I'd like to hear the answer to, and that was
mhm,
when you went to Harvard, because I know that Harvard gets a lot of accolades for being such a high esteemed, place of education. Um, and and sometimes I wonder because you've just brought it up, you get a great education, but maybe not so much of the business sense, right? So
mm,
you kind of, yeah, it's the side that you really only learn when you get out into the wild working for companies,
mhm,
especially startups. So I'm just curious though, not so much was it worth it,
mm,
talking in terms of money, but were there in your computer science program, were there any professors that stood out? And do you feel like that was also an incredible part of your experience in life that is so valuable
mhm.
that you would recommend? That I think was my question, is were there any standout professors and would you recommend that university to people? Because it is a big
Mhm.
chunk of money to go there. So I'm just kind of
Yeah.
curious, now that you've graduated and stepped away, you've worked in the real world, was it worth it?
Mhm. Uh, Absolutely, yes. And for a few reasons, though. It was worth it because one, I'm honestly not from like a super prosperous part of America. I'm from the Midwest, and you know, it's not like I'm fortunate. I was never like hungry as a kid. You know, it wasn't like that level, but like my town is not like thriving necessarily. And so I was able to go somewhere that I don't know, just was very, very different. And also just queued me up really well for a lot of opportunities. But like the two professors that I can think of, yeah, the name of the class was something like decentralized economics, which like back at this time was like, what are you talking about? Like, what does that even make any sense? But there was one like homework like project assignment that we did. It was everybody in the class had to build a BitTorrent client, and so it's like these clients, you know, like they get data from one another and they share data with one another. And the goal of the assignment, we literally got ranked like based on the performance of our like client that we built. The goal was to work in this decentralized network and make sure that your bot got the most data without giving as much data. And so it was one of the first times that my brain really started to think about like, what does it look like to work in a totally like game theoretic, like adversarial online environment in like a super high frequency as these like machines are talking with one another. And this is David Parks, incredible man, super grateful for him. And really that was like from an intellectual perspective, the beginning of my journey into like decentralized systems. And there was also Professor Lewis who, yeah, just he was like a dean of the university or a dean of the like engineering at the university. Just a guy who's an OG. Like he was, you know, a lot of the people, he's like much older at this point and stuff. I think he's still there, but like, you know, he just had deep lore. Like he'd be talking about like original people that were creating the first computers and stuff. And just like, whoa, this guy is an OG, like not like computer scientists, not even like programmer, just like people who are thinking about like what computers could be. And so those two professors for sure, deeply grateful for them. And honestly, like it did set me up really well in terms of the like next stages of my career in some ways. In others, hilariously not. So, you know, I didn't get a business sense as an undergrad. I was studying computer science. But what I realized after I graduated and like had raised money from people like various VCs and Ripple, I realized I wasn't a software engineer. I was a computer scientist. And I had no idea that these were different things, right? But but what I realized is I knew how to do like math proofs really well. A lot of our homework wasn't even like coding. It was like theoretical like math proofs. And so I graduated and my goal with this company was like, hey, productionize the Interledger protocol, like turn it into a real network that like businesses can depend on. And my co-founder and I would just quickly realize like, oh my God, we have no idea what we're doing. Like, like we have no experience in this. And so it was fun having like a crash course in like what is professional software engineering? What does it really look like to build like large scale, reliable software? But it was super funny realizing that I spent 4 years at Harvard and I just came out of that. I was like, I actually have no idea how to do any of this. So, but I do appreciate it now, especially because I don't like code anymore at Omni, for example. I haven't coded in like 2 years, but I do have that like computer science background that helps me think about like what networks can and cannot do. I can think about it from like a fundamentals level of like, I know we could build this. And there are some things where it's like, no, I know we actually like literally at a computer science level, we cannot build that. So I actually think it helps me be a much better CEO by knowing like what directions we can take the company and what directions we simply cannot. So I'm not just like that CEO who's detached and like make it bigger, you know, like so it helps with like engineering empathy.
Austin, we've got a brand new administration coming in, a whole different approach to creating a cabinet and advisors and a group of people who even are crossing political lines to join, which is, I think, unique and the first time in many ways. So what are we going to see? Where's it going to take us? And give me your perspective on that.
Yeah. To me, there are two key things here. So there's one, there's so much quality talent in the US that hasn't participated in crypto historically. For many years, trying to hire engineers, I've been literally hit with questions like, why should I take a risk and work in crypto? And it's like, okay, honestly, if you're asking me that question, this is not a good fit. But like, there is because the government was so hostile to crypto over the past 4 years, there was this culture where like just really smart people were not entering the industry because they're like, okay, I don't know enough. I just know that like the government doesn't like this right now. So like I'm not gonna risk. So that's one that I think is just like uh, talent influx is going to be a big shift, and that's going to accelerate things even faster. Two, I think there's going to be more American companies. I talk with a lot of founders, and you know, even starting Omni, I had like a very real, candid conversation with my co-founder. I was like, look, we don't know what's going to happen in the US from a policy perspective. We know this technology is good for people. It increases personal freedoms. We know that is good. However, we don't know what stance the US is going to take. So if it gets to it, are we down to leave the US? Which is a crazy conversation to have with somebody. It's just like, hey, you want to like build some software. Oh, also we might have to leave our like home country. So that I think people are not going to have to face anymore, which is fantastic because I think we're weird for being like, we're gonna do this no matter what, you know? But I think that the builders here in the US, and I think honestly, yeah, kind of like I said with Coinbase and Ripple, like I think they're super well positioned to like now experience tailwinds for the first time. Like there's just been years of getting slapped around and like shoved and pushed around by the government. But now I think we have a very like pro technology and pro innovation administration coming in. And so I'm super excited for that. But the one thing that I do think is crazy, and usually I'm very reserved about like not financial advice, you know, like that type of thing. I don't make price predictions or anything, but one thing that is just kind of mind blowing to me, I would have never have expected this in 2017 when I got involved. I would have thought that this would take decades. In fact, what I always tell people is like, the problem with crypto is that this will fundamentally change society. It is going to change it's going to become the global financial system, but that's going to happen over decades. And everybody thinks it's going to happen over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's why we have these crazy cycles. But where we're at with things is there's speculation about the US government accumulating Bitcoin. And now other nation states are hearing this, and other people are proposing it in these different countries like, hey, maybe we should create our own Bitcoin reserve. And we all understand that this is not just going to impact Bitcoin. Obviously, it would be great for Bitcoin, but it's going to like pull so much capital into the entire crypto economy. And so usually I'm very reserved with like, cool, like let's stay level headed. Like this industry does this. So like let's just like make sure that we're positioned to just like consistently build and scale throughout the years, and not get like tipped over as things fall off a cliff at some point. But this is one thing. It's just like if this happens, if the issuer of the reserve currency that the entire world uses starts to sell their currency to buy Bitcoin, every other nation in the world, game theoretically, is in their rational interest to start accumulating Bitcoin. So if that happens, I think like this will accelerate at a rate that I would have never anticipated. That's really the one like crazy thing that's happening right now. Like pro crypto policy, cool, good, long overdue. But if the government itself starts to buy crypto, that to me is like, I thought that would take like 20, 30 years. So that's the one thing that I'm watching the most closely because I think that's like such a massive variable to pay attention to.
Looks like it's going to be tried. And I think the odds are if I were to put and I love to wager on the side. If I put a wager on
Yeah.
the side, I'm gonna bet that we are going to create some sort of reserve. The size of that reserve, I'm not sure, but I think we are going to create some sort of reserve. And I'm not sure
Yeah, honestly,
they're going to do it.
I don't even think size matters. I think just literally like taking that first step, there's just a wildfire across the world at that point. Every government's like, oh my God, the US is doing it. Like, holy shit, we gotta buy some Bitcoin. Yeah.
Which reminds me of one more stupid question I was going to ask, and
Yeah.
I'm
Hit
going
me.
to ask it. You have from your X profile a link to the Cypherpunk manifesto, and
Mhm.
I love that document. In fact, that document was really inspirational to me. There's one sentence in there for me that really brought me into Bitcoin in 2013. And so I am curious. The whole document's wonderful and great, and everybody should read it more than once. But what is the one sentence in there that really captured your heart?
hmm I think I don't remember the exact sentence off the top of my head, but specifically the thing that I love about that is that we've almost like sleepwalked into this world where we're surveilled all the time, online and with our finances. And the main thing that this document, it's from like the 90s, and it just sees the progression of like how things are evolving here. And most people don't understand like how much data is involved with the footprints that they're like leaving when they use a credit card or when they're browsing the web. And it just makes like a very strong assertion that like privacy is normal. Like privacy is the default. And like that's actually necessary for like a well-functioning like democratic society. And I think we've had discussions across society on like how like is privacy even important? People are like, I don't care. I like my like TikTok and stuff. But I think over the past year, it's become more clear like, oh, this is actually seriously important. We've kind of seen what it looks like when governments start to like step in more. Even in Canada, Canada trying to like debank people for protesting and stuff. It's just like, oh, if we give control of these systems and we don't maintain like sovereignty and privacy by default, then that means somebody is gaining power over us. And it's not even like one administration or the other. It's just like that power should not be just kind of like ceded without us like really even thinking about it to any third party because it's just dangerous. Even if one president that's in right now or some prime minister, whatever country, even if you're like, yeah, they're fine, they would never do anything crazy, the next one might be crazy. And if they come in with just like these powers that like give them the ability to surveil you, yeah, it's dangerous. And I think this is one thing that just kind of drives a lot of my work that uh, I care about people having sovereignty. I think the best form of human society 100 years from now is if we have these like uh, rights enshrined at like the base layers of the technologies that we're using. I think if they're not, we risk walking into this crazy dystopian world. And so, yeah, I don't know, like that's why I do what I do for sure. The thing that I think is most important for people to keep in mind over the coming years here is one, how good the technology has gotten, but two, in realizing that certain networks are specializing. So, like we've talked about, we have XRP. You can say that this is focused on asset issuance and payments. You have Omni that is focused on linking together all these different networks, making it super simple for people to work across them. You have Bitcoin that in many ways you can say is just like a store of value at this point. And you have Ethereum, which is more focused on this like computational like DeFi side of things. And so I don't know. For me, looking forward, I've always been focused on the intersection of all these different things. And the thing that I'm most excited about is seeing Ripple thrive, do their thing. They're creating a stable coin. See Omni, we just launched mainnet a few days ago, and there's obvious synergies there where it's like, maybe Omni makes it so that the Ripple stablecoin is expanded throughout the entire Ethereum ecosystem and on Solana and used in DeFi throughout that. And Bitcoin obviously just has its role in the future as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of tribalism in crypto at large, but I think if people zoom out, look forward to where we're going a few years from now, it's super exciting to see kind of like where this might all take us. And yeah, I'm very grateful to be working in this industry. There's nothing else that I love as much as contributing to this technology.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you for the contribution for all these years and all of the years to come that you're going to dedicate. I just want to tell you as a person in the space, thank you so much. Yeah, I really
I
do
appreciate that.
appreciate
Yeah,
you.
I'll be here for decades. I love this stuff. Yeah, I mean, crypto is my career. Sometimes people ask me like, "Have you ever thought about leaving?" I'm like, no, absolutely not. And this happened a lot in the last bear market. There were a lot of founders that we were all kind of like checking in on each other, like, "Hey, are you keeping your sanity and stuff?" And some of them were like, "I might go over to AI," and I'm like, "I'm never leaving this industry. Like AI will come to crypto, okay? I am never leaving crypto."